Today we're going to have a discussion, an online webinar about building immunity through nutrition. It is being hosted by Habesha Health. If you are unfamiliar with Habesha Health, if this is your first time, I'll give you guys a brief introduction. Habesha Health is a virtual platform dedicated to increasing awareness and addressing Habesha health disparities in the diaspora. This platform is designed for our Habesha community members to find and utilize information on Habesha healthcare providers as well as health education. If you'd like to learn more about Habesha Health, you can visit the website habeshahealth.org. If you wish, you can also donate there. Your donation will support Habesha Health's administrative expenses and allow the team to continue providing quality content. And hopefully in the near future, information will get translated as well to different languages. My name is Aida Beneguse. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I was invited by the good people at Habesha Health to moderate this conversation. I will be speaking with Dr. Betel Aklilu. Good afternoon.
Hi everybody. Hi, Aida.
Hello, Dr. Aklilu. Dr. Aklilu is the founder of Kalai Chiropractic and Wellness Boutique. She is also a clinical nutritionist, which is why we're going to be picking her brain today. So thank you, Dr. Aklilu.
You're very welcome.
In the beginning, it'll be, oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to everyone at Habesha Health for this opportunity. Thank you for having me on your platform so we can share some really good information to everyone in the Habesha community.
So let's get started. So today we are going to be talking about building immunity through nutrition during the pandemic. The last year and a half or so of our lives, I can't believe it's been that long, we've been dealing with COVID-19. It's been particularly scary because there isn't a cure so far. We don't know. It's a pretty novel virus. And the one thing we have been told over and over again is that we have to strengthen our immune system, right? In order to give ourselves the best chance to fight this virus. So maybe we could start with that. What is the immune system? What does that mean when we talk about immunity?
Okay, that's an excellent question. So, immune system, right? It is a network of cells. It is a network of interactions and kind of connections that happen in the body naturally throughout your lifetime, right? And it's basically how your body says, this is who I am, and I'm recognizing that there's something inside of me that may not be me, right? So your immune system was designed so that you can be protected. It is your protection. It is your defense system. Your immune system is actually first created in utero, so when you're a baby. And during that time, right? So this makes this discussion very important for anyone who is pregnant during this time. But of course, you know, we have our immune system our whole lives, but the foundation of our immune system starts then, starts in mom's womb, right? And so connections are being made that say, this is who I am. I'm not my mom, I'm my own person. That differentiation begins in utero, right? Which is why mom's body is an attacking baby, right? So there we go, first steps there. Then we go from there and we're constantly deciding, our immune system as it grows is deciding, okay, I recognize this, that's good. I recognize that, that's okay. I recognize that, that's something that I should watch out for, or I don't recognize this, I need to take this out of my body. I need to put up walls. I need to eject it immediately. So this could be a defense, like building up a fever, because now I want my body temperature to get warmer so that I can kill off this virus, right? Or I'm going to have diarrhea, for example, so I can eject and eliminate this toxin from my system, or cough or sneeze, or all of those different things. So the immune system is something that we have from birth, but we need to constantly nourish and constantly protect, right? Or else, when we're in an environment surrounded by lots of different viruses, lots of different bacteria and pathogens, right? Our bodies inside aren't going to be able to know what's harmful versus what's beneficial. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like our bodies are already very intelligent and equipped to protect us.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really important because it's innate,
Mm-hmm.
right? We don't create an immune system. We
Mm-hmm.
have one. You were born with one. We
Mm-hmm.
all naturally have this defense because our bodies are so smart that they know there are things that may not be us, maybe good bacteria for you, but not necessarily for me, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
part of what makes us so different. So your immune system is something where you think about it and it's completely unique to you and you need it. Can you imagine, like, if you don't have something to protect you from all of these different things, like how sickly you would be?
Yeah. So we've been told that we need to strengthen our immunity, and today we're talking about nutrition, what that has to do with immunity. So my next question is, well, what is the foods we eat, what we've put in our body, ingest, what does that have to do with our immune system and strengthening it?
Well, let's start with the first thing, right? So 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. Okay? So in your digestive tracts is 80% of your immune system. When we have a digestive system, so when you have a gut, right? And that's how most people will recognize it, that is weak, those walls are very weak, it is more likely that we'll have these bacteria or these pathogens escape and enter into our bloodstream and create more of a toxic environment. Okay, so again, your gut, what you're eating, how well your digestive tract is very much connected to how well your immune system is. Okay, how well it functions. So if we think about foods and what foods are, right? Food is medicine. It is at the very bottom, like it is foundational. It is the foundation of what we consider medicine and healing, right? We eat not just to sustain ourselves and not simply just to, gain weight or because, it's whatever time of day. We're eating because we need those minerals. We need those vitamins. We need those connections to happen in our bodies so that we are fueled, so that our liver works properly, so that our brains work properly. You know how it feels like, I'm sure you understand, if you try to do an assignment or get through a workday without food, right? It,
Possible.
and for me, for sure, it gets to feel impossible, right?
Mhm.
Because we are fueling ourselves. We are literally giving ourselves the things that we need in order for all of those connections to take place in our bodies so that we could be who we are.
Yeah.
Now, the food that you eat, right? When you're eating nutritious food, food that is adding to your body, adding to the internal system, then things are working properly.
Mm-hmm.
And when things are working properly, you have a working immune system.
Mm.
You have an immune system that says, I'm ready to fight. If something were to come into me today, and I say, I don't recognize this, I don't like this does not feel good to our system, it will eject that, right? It will take care of that problem. Now, if you're eating foods that create more work for the body,
Mm.
more stress in the body, more inflammation in the body, now our immune system is taking the energy, or our bodies are taking the energy from the immune system, our defense network, right? Our armor, and using that to now go towards fixing all of these other things, right?
Gets distracted.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It's working overtime.
Right. And then our immune system sounds like it suffers, kind of like if we have too many browser, or what do you call it, links open on our browser, our computer works slower. So that actually brings up my next question. What are some things that we can avoid so our bodies aren't so distracted and our immune system is stronger?
Right. So some things to avoid, the basics for me are salt, extra salt, extra sugar, and fat, right? Saturated, not good for you fat. When we'll talk a little bit, I want to go more into fats, but salt, sugar, and unnecessary extra fat. Salt. If we focus just on salt for a moment, right?
Ooh, I have a salt tooth, so this one will hurt.
If you focus on just salt for a moment, right? We know that increasing salt intake is going to lead to things like hypertension, right? When we have hypertension, our body is working on our blood pressure and decreasing and losing our defense system. Make sense?
Yeah.
When we're adding extra salt to our diet, we are creating more work for our kidneys, weakening our immune system, right? When we most of the time too, the thing that I find really interesting in our communities is a lot of our spices already have additional like salt in it, right? So we're cooking with berbere, we're cooking with mitmita, we're cooking with these spices that have lots of flavor to them.
Right.
Adding the additional salt on top of that is excessive. And right now, especially during the time of COVID, taking that away is one simple thing that we can do to that excess, right? Taking that excess away is a simple thing that we can do to make sure that we're not asking our bodies to work harder than they already are, right? We're not getting distracted. If we think about sugar, right? Sugar is like bacteria's best friend. It is inflammatory. Yes, there are good sugars that we need. We need carbohydrates, but at the same time, when we have those excess things, when we have the cakes, when we have the sugars, when we have the extra dapo in the morning, the extra kita, all of those things are really asking our bodies to work harder, right? Conditions, and now we've seen too with COVID, those who are most affected by it are those with comorbidities, right? Comorbidities meaning other health conditions like diabetes and hypertension and high cholesterol and autoimmune conditions, right? And the reason for that is their bodies are already working hard. So now when you're adding a virus to it, then now your immune system has to say, hey, I was protecting you from all of this inflammation. I was protecting you from working hard because of this X, Y, and Z. Now I have to fight a virus too. That's where the body says, okay, this is a lot.
Can't do it all.
I can't do it all. I need some help, right?
Right.
So that's where sugar gets involved. And we can really try to avoid some extra sugar during this time. And it will most certainly boost our immunity.
Okay.
Then fat, saturated fat, oftentimes from fats in meats, right? The fat part of a meat, it creates more cholesterol. It creates more work within our blood vessels, right? And this saturated fat makes it harder for our bodies to function. So those would be my three things. I would say less fat, less sugar, less salt.
Okay. Things to avoid.
Things to avoid.
Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you. So, those are things that we could probably do without or do less of during this time. What would you say are maybe things we're doing right now in our culture, particularly? I know that in my family, we have something called COVID tea, which is basically we boil cinnamon, garlic, ginger, something called feto, cloves, and it's supposed to boost our immunity. But are there other things that we do in our culture that are actually helpful?
Well, I want to say, one, all of that is great, right? The steps that we have taken, and every family is a little different, but
Yeah.
I think all of us have had some type of, you need to drink this concoction,
Uh-huh.
you need a spoonful of this, you need this or that. All
Mhm.
of it is really great, you know?
Mhm.
Garlic has its own components. Cinnamon has its own components. Lots of things that it's adding to the body, right? But none of it is a surprise. These things are found naturally. These are natural foods, right? Natural things in our environment that were created that are there because they're good for us, right? So they're
Mhm.
all giving us a different mineral, a different vitamin, and all of that is going to be very, very, very nutritious for us, right? So during this time, so what different families are doing, for the most part, I say if it's natural, if it, I always tell people too, if it tastes like dirt and you probably don't really want it, then it probably is good for
It's
you.
good for you.
Probably good for you, you know. So that's a good way to remember it too. Did I answer your question, Ida? There was
Yeah. I mean, I was asking about cultural foods that are helping our immunity. Um,
so in addition to that, right? Um, there are things like, for example, we eat a lot of injera,
mhm.
right? If injera is known for being gluten free, it's known for its fiber, it's known for um, helping with some diabetes, right? So it's got a lot of properties that are actually really good for us.
Okay.
So there's a lot already within our community
Yeah.
that is good, that we know, that
Mhm.
we have been told over and over and over, we know that this is better, right? So
Mm.
oftentimes what it comes down to is making sure that we are making good decisions, making good conscious decisions,
Mhm.
right? Thinking
Mhm.
about what we are eating. We have lentils in our diet, we have peas in our diet, we have vegetables in our diet, we've got onions and garlic. All of these different components are necessary, they're vital, right? Our bodies need them for nourishment. So individually, you can look, everyone's on YouTube and everyone's Googling, this is good and this is good and this. A lot of what we know and what we cook with, or what we drink and what we create, is good for us, right?
Yeah.
Yes. And will nourish our body and fuel our body.
Mhm.
And when you have good gut health, right, you're going to have better immunity.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful to know. Abisha, people, I hope you feel good about yourselves hearing that. Culturally, we we can eat injera. But also that brings to mind maybe what are some things that are cultural staples, are things that we do in our communities that maybe aren't the best thing for our diets and our immunity.
Right. What we do a lot of is overcook,
Hmm.
right? So when we are overcooking, we are taking a lot of the nutrients in the lentils, in the garlic, in the onion, and all of that. We take it and we deplete it of all of its nutrients.
Mm.
And that's no fun.
Tamaglalat, tamantagtag.
All of it.
Oh, okay.
And it's not to say that you shouldn't cook your foods. That's not
Mhm.
what I'm saying either. Because certain things have to be cooked in order for them to be absorbed, right? So in order for you to actually get some of the nutrients, some things should be cooked. Now, how you should cook things, exactly, what temperatures we should be using. A lot of the times when we see cooking in our culture, there isn't a specific temperature, there isn't a specific,
Mhm.
method. It is, I know how to make this and I make it from love, right?
Make it taste good.
I make it taste good, right?
Mhm.
But to really get some more information about how certain things should be cooked, what I recommend is everyone seek a dietitian,
Mm.
right? So a dietitian is going to help you really figure out, what things in my foods, what diets are really working for me as an individual, or for me as an individual, and then me and my family. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So a lot of the gomen, the green peas, all of these different things that we eat are great, but then if we overcook them and we take all of the nutrients out of it, we deplete ourselves. We're not actually having a potato if it no longer feels like a potato, you know? So things like that. I recommend steaming. I recommend stir frying. I recommend boiling and broiling and baking. So those things will be different alternatives so that we can keep some
Mhm.
more of those nutrients actually in the foods,
Yeah.
Um, even for example, if you're going to eat a sweet potato, you know, or a potato, boil it with the skin. Try to consume it sometimes with the skin,
Mhm.
right? Again, I don't want this to feel too much like Google or YouTube, where you're getting a lot of generic information, right? It's really, really, really important that people realize there are whole professions designed and created to speak specifically about what you should eat and how you should eat it and how you should
Mm.
cook it,
Right.
right? And we really need to seek out these professionals to
Mhm.
tell us right now about our gut health, you know? As a clinical nutritionist, I look at mineral deficiencies, vitamin related issues. We look at thyroid or diabetes, different things there. Dietitians are going to look at what's on your plate. What's on your plate? What do you need less of? What do you need more of? With lots of inner workings of, and naturopaths do lots of work in this field as well.
What was that last one?
Naturopaths.
Naturopaths.
Mhm. So something that a lot of people don't know is in most medical schools, I think the statistic is about only 30% of medical schools require a class on nutrition,
Wow.
right? And then even in medical schools that you do take nutrition, you're getting
Mhm.
less than 25 hours. Your primary care doctor is getting less than 25 hours of nutrition education, right? In the
Mhm.
4 years of medical school,
Mm. That's
right?
the thing.
Right. And then let's take this perspective too, right? The number one leading cause of disease in worldwide, right, is food related.
Mhm.
So many diseases and conditions are all food related. Beyond diabetes, I'm talking even autoimmune disorders, right? Because when you think about what an autoimmune disorder is, and you think about 80% of your immunity lives in your gut, how is an autoimmune condition not related to what you're eating,
Mhm.
what bacteria or what your body was exposed to, right? So a baby coming into this world is born with immune cells, is born with an understanding already of what is good for my body, what's not good for my body, right? A mom that's breastfeeding automatically, and I don't want to get too far off of a tangent, but a baby is telling mom through saliva, this is what I need, right? And mom's body is producing that through breast milk.
Mhm.
A lot of immunity happens naturally.
Mhm.
It is naturally produced. It is naturally occurring. So if we're not going back to foods and we're not seeking out professionals who are helping us, right?
Right.
Bring things back to food, what's on our plate, where, why am I iron deficient? Why do I need to take B12?
Yeah.
All of these different things, while a medical doctor can help you from how can I fix this problem, how do I prevent this problem is not really their wheelhouse,
Hmm.
right? And I
Yeah.
would love to see that more in our communities where we are taking a moment to say, hey, we eat every day. We put nutrients and we fuel our bodies every day. How can we do that better? What do we need to do more of, less of? And, making it specific, individual.
Right. And advocating, it sounds like, with our general practitioners, not expecting them to give us all the answers and how to's, but getting a referral to a nutritionist or a dietitian and that natural, I don't think I'll say it right. Naturopath.
Or a
Yeah.
chiropractor.
Or a chiropractor.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that guidance. As a nutritionist, we talked a lot about what we can avoid, practices with cooking our food we can avoid, and how to change those practices. I wonder, are there things that you would recommend that we add to our diets, particularly during this time of COVID-19, that can boost our immunity? I know that might be a big question, but what are some things that maybe you might have mentioned in your blog that you can share with us today?
Yes. So I'm a huge fan of avocados. Avocados are great. And typically, too, within the Habesha community, we like avocados. So avocados are great. They're a great source of fat. It's a great way to boost and increase some more omega-3s in our diet, right? Because when we have, and the standard American diet is omega-6 heavy, okay? Fats like olive oil or avocados are going to help you enrich your body with omega-3s. That this is something we need to actually get from our diet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we definitely want to increase some more avocados. I think that's a nice, easy recommendation.
Okay.
Radishes. We don't really, I haven't really used radish much. Have you?
No. I see them in the grocery store and sometimes in the pre-prepared salads.
Exactly. They're always in the pre-prepared salads, right? But radishes are a great source of zinc. They're a great source of magnesium. They're a
Yeah.
great source of manganese. Protein. So I definitely recommend adding some more radishes to our diet.
Okay.
Let's see. Another one I would recommend sprouts. So broccoli sprouts, a great addition, right? Beans, you lots of different sprouts. You can add into a salad, you can add into a sandwich, a lettuce wrap if we did that. So sprouts are a great addition too. And then really a huge one is hydration, right? Water.
Mm.
Absolutely 1000%. We need to make sure we're drinking more water.
Mm-hmm.
So much of our bodies are made up of water, right? So if you go the whole day and you're asking your body to have all of these chemical reactions and you're not giving it any water, it becomes really, really, really difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies are naturally acidic. So water is part of how we can help to bring in more of an alkaline environment, a more basic environment. Okay. So alkaline water specifically is what I'm recommending. If we're drinking more alkaline water, we can have more of a chance to help that pH balance in our body.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not as acidic and we have more of a balance. Okay. And in addition to alkaline water, gel water is really good.
Gel water.
Gel water. I know.
Okay. You're gonna have to explain that to me.
Explain it. So gel water is, so we have the three phases of water, right? We've got liquid, gas, solid, right? Now there's more research and it's saying that basically there's a fourth phase of water. This type of water is the type of water you get through vegetables and fruits. It's slightly thicker, right? This is why everyone is taking water and adding into it cucumbers and oranges and different things like that, because it actually makes that water thicker. And the water in your body is that same consistency.
Okay.
So the idea is that your body is able to absorb this water, gel water, better than it is. And so it will hydrate you more than it will if it's just regular water.
Wow.
Right?
We can upgrade our water.
Upgrade the water.
Okay.
Try the alkaline bottles too. Yeah.
You can find that at the grocery store, alkaline water.
You can, yes. And then, so sometimes, and I know in our house, we go in and out of doing that, just adding some cucumbers or some fruits to the water and such. But it's definitely a good idea and a great way to keep us more hydrated.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, when you talk about hydration, something that comes to mind that I know can be a big issue in our communities is constipation.
Right.
Is that related can that be related to our immunity as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what's crazy? A lot of people don't even talk to their doctors about constipation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's this idea that constipation is normal, that it's not a problem if I go and have a bowel movement every other day or every 3 days or once a week.
Take a laxative and you'll be all right.
When I need to, like it's a really big problem.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with the prevalence and the incidence of cancers like colorectal cancer, we really need to make sure that we are talking to our doctors about our bowel movements or lack thereof, right?
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
need to be telling our doctors, hey, my stool looks like this. It's coming out very thin. It's hard to pass. All of these are different variations of constipation, right? So
Okay.
constipation, you can still have a bowel movement every day, but if you are straining to have a bowel movement,
Mm-hmm.
that is a form of constipation. You have pain with constipation, with bowel movements, that's constipation, right? If you're not having the bowel movement and it's the decrease in frequency you're seeing, right? And you have it every 2-3 days, but that's your normal, that is constipation. Okay. So we really, really, really want to talk to our doctors about this because, once again, your immune system, gut, anything related to your gut is part of your immune system. And your immune system, you don't need it just for COVID, you need it for life.
Yeah.
Right? You need it for life. You need it to prevent autoimmune conditions. You need it to keep your mental clarity. You need it for every single process in the body. Right? So, what are some of the things that we can do for constipation? Do you have one? Do you know?
To ask that. Well, I know water.
Water.
I heard about fiber and exercise, but I'm not sure. Like, is it fiber supplements?
Right.
Is there a certain amount of fiber I'm supposed to have? It's always a lot of questions for me around this kind of thing.
Right. So the reason why water is really important, right, is because water is helping keeping a lot of absorption within our gut. So we're not losing too much water when we have a bowel movement.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Fiber is really important because it's helping in our stool. It's helping in the formation of our stool. It's helping in the process of that gut movement, right? So if you have soluble fibers, right? Soluble fibers are oats, they're beans, they're bananas, they're sweet potatoes. All of those are good for you. They're going to help with cholesterol in the body. It's going to help with, reducing risk of heart disease. It's going to help with reducing risk of diabetes. And then the insoluble fibers, like nuts and seeds and the skin of most of your vegetables and your fruits, right? These are really going to help with the formation, right? And making sure that we're having proper stool. Make sense?
Yeah.
So fiber is huge. It's really important. Part of why we shouldn't just kind of look into, hey, Google said fiber, right? And we're just going to consume fiber, is because if you have too much fiber too soon, it will cause you to be more constipated.
Well, that doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help. So it's
Yeah.
not, I'm constipated, let me go, have a whole lot of fiber. When
No.
you're introducing more fiber into your diet, you should be doing so over a period of time, usually between 1 to 2 months, where you're gradually increasing fiber,
I see.
right? And this is part of where it becomes really important that we're not, remembering that we are not a one size fits all. We are not there's one solution to this problem, right? And making sure we're saying to our doctors, because I've had clients, right, where fiber makes them feel worse.
Mm.
Citrus fruits make them feel worse. Hey, doc, I've been eating all of these oranges and I really don't like it. What else can I do? Because it doesn't make me feel good. You may have an allergen, right? An allergy to certain types of foods and such. So, really, really, and truly, we should be working with individual providers to figure out what's right for our bodies, right?
Gotcha.
Movement, being a chiropractor, of course, I'm a little biased, but just a little. Movement is life.
Yeah.
It is equated to movement is life, in the same way that gut health equals immunity, right? So, or gut health equals digestive health, which also equals immunity, right? So 3 hours of sitting in a day, right, is considered sedentary. When
Mm.
you're sitting and when you're not moving, your gut doesn't have the ability to contract in the way that it's supposed to, right?
Mm.
And then this will also be my reminder to, hey, we should be not just moving, but hopefully getting adjusted too, because the nerves that are going to make sure that that movement is happening, right, is coming from the spine, another source of immunity. But when we talk about our gut health and we're not moving, this is why diet and exercise go together,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
Eat well and keep moving.
They
Basically,
both have to happen.
they both have to happen.
I picked up 2-year slogans today. Food is medicine and movement is life.
Yes, good job.
I'm gonna use those.
You're getting there. You got it. Now I know what my slogans are. Thank
I wrote them down for you.
you.
So I have a question that came up for me when you mentioned um, when we talked about fiber, and a little earlier you talked about some nutrients and minerals. A lot of us lately have heard that we need to take vitamin C supplements, zinc, magnesium, that those are good for our immune system, prebiotics, probiotics. What are your thoughts on supplementation?
Okay. Well, you just mentioned prebiotics and probiotics, right? Let me
Mm-hmm.
talk about that for a second and then we'll go
Okay.
back to supplements because you made a really great point. Probiotics, prebiotics, what they are, first of all. So,
Yes.
probiotics are a good bacteria. They're bacteria that we need in our gut. Okay, we need this bacteria because we have bacteria that's fighting for us. Not all bacteria is bad, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Prebiotics are kind of like, if you think about the the soil, the soil that you need to put down so that your grass is greener,
Mm-hmm.
right? Prebiotics are going to do that for you. Good prebiotics are going to make sure that your gut bacteria have everything that they need so that your gut is doing really well. It knows how to process and digest everything that's coming into it.
Like fertilizer.
It's absolutely fertilizer.
Yeah.
Fertilizer for the bacteria. So when we talk about supplementation, right? And right now, especially during COVID, there's that take a zinc, take a vitamin C,
Mhm.
take something, right?
Mhm.
I'm a firm believer in we need supplements. And the reason that we need supplements is because we are so far removed from our food sources,
Mhm.
right? Not many of us live on a farm, near a farm, or, have access to, growing some of our own things in our backyards and such. It's been really nice to see that some families, right, which is really awesome, are
Mhm.
starting to grow things at home, you
Yeah.
know, taking the time to like grow some peppers, grow some cabbage, all of that. And you'll find they have found too, and I'm sure that it tastes a little different. It tastes stronger, it tastes sweeter, it tastes spicier, right?
Mhm.
We are so far removed from our food sources that a lot of nutrients are lost. They're lost in preserving the foods as they're being transported. They're lost in the time, right? That they're
Mhm.
sitting on shelves. So, and so a lot of the foods that we're getting, they're already nutrient depleted
Mm.
to a degree, right? So now you take these foods, especially now if we're cooking them, we're losing even more nutrients. So there's a difference between someone who is overweight and someone who has very poor nutrition,
Mm. You
right?
be eating well, but still be nutrient deficient.
Absolutely. You could
Mm.
be eating well and still have a thyroid related issue. You could still have an immunity related issue. You can have, lots of different issues. So when it comes to supplements, I recommend always whole food supplements, which means most, if not all, of what's in that supplement came from a farm, right? Or
Mm.
came from a food source. A lot of the times when we're taking over the counter generic synthetic vitamins,
Mm.
they were made in labs and they can look like vitamin A, but it's not going to be the natural vitamin A that you're going to get from a whole food source,
Gotcha.
right?
Mhm.
So, as much as possible, food first, definitely supplement. But when you supplement with a whole food supplement, right?
Mhm.
My favorite to use in practice is Standard Process.
Is that the company?
That's the company.
Okay.
So, I've been to the Standard Process farm 2 times.
Mhm.
They are amazing. They're in Wisconsin. I don't know if they know just how much I advocate for the use of Standard Process, right?
Okay.
They're not the only whole food supplement source, right? They're absolutely not. However, if you're looking for something that is a whole food supplement source, that is a great product to use because they have farms that they're literally growing their vegetables, their beans, their beets, their radishes, all there, and they're helping to put that into supplementation form.
Wow. Mhm.
Outside of that, sometimes we're taking supplements and they're just going straight out of, we're just urinating it. We're not bringing any of it into our bodies
Useless. Mhm.
because they're not bioavailable, right? Which means they're not understood and absorbed in our bodies, right? Sometimes this goes a little off tangent, but you'll be taking calcium sources and, you know, you'll see particles in, if you were to take an x-ray, you could see some of the deposits inside of you because you've been taking all this calcium and it wasn't really absorbed in the body, you know?
Mm.
So there are things like that, but I say whole food supplements as much as possible. And then also just a disclaimer, be careful when you're taking a bunch of supplements, right? Zinc is something that we should already have in our bodies that we get from different food sources, right? So when we're supplementing with something that we already have a lot of, our body may think, oh, you don't need me to work in this manner anymore because you're taking it.
Mm.
That makes sense? It becomes a very tricky balance of, okay, I need to supplement, but what am I supplementing with? And again, this becomes a good question. This is where we should be working with an individual provider.
Okay.
Hey, this is me. What do I need to do? These are the conditions
Mhm.
that I have. This is how I eat. What should I
Mhm.
take? When should I take it? How often should I take it? Right? This is, I'm talking a little bit beyond the general multivitamin,
Right.
right? But oftentimes our body works in ratios, right? We want to have a certain level of ratio. We want this higher than this or this higher than that, right? So we're constantly working on ratios. When we supplement, we change the ratio. And if we change the ratio in a way, even if you're supplementing with something that's good for you,
Right.
right? You
Mhm.
could be creating imbalances thinking you're doing something really good. I recently had a client who her body started to retain a lot of water, right?
Mm.
I said,
Mhm.
you know what? You started this new supplement. I don't think that it's working very well for you. Let's take that off. Let's look at your vitamin D ratios. Let's look at this ratio. And I do that with saliva tests and such in the office. But a lot of times it's because we're just taking things because we think we should be taking it. Why are you taking vitamin D? Because I think I should take it.
Hmm.
Because everyone's taking
I
vitamin D.
heard on YouTube.
Right, right. So we
Mhm.
have to be really, really, really careful.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like we just need to understand how to customize our supplementation, and we do that by going to the experts, like a clinical nutritionist,
Right.
not doing the guesswork. Yeah. Okay. Um, Dr. Aklilu, we actually have about 5 minutes before we have to end the discussion so we can start the Q&A with our audience members. But before we do that, I wanted to give you a chance to maybe give us maybe the top 3 things or the top messages that you would like us to walk away from this discussion. If we got nothing else, what would be um, the information you want us to really remember or pass on to other people?
So
Big question, I know.
gut health is really important, and that is your immune system. If everyone thought every time I'm eating, I'm helping or hurting
Hurting.
my immune system, we would be going places, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would also say, particularly to the Habesha community, right? We are doing a lot of things right? It is a matter of just making small changes that can make a huge difference, right? Small changes, less sugar, less salt, less butter, and we will be avoiding a lot of the big things that are causing so many of the disparities and the health conditions in our communities, right? So the third one, I would have to say that's the hard one because now, you want me to put everything to one last one. I know. Let's say hydration. Yeah, let's stay hydrated. We need a lot can be fixed with proper hydration, right? Proper hydration for everything, for every system in the body. So if we remember that our gut health is equal to our immune system, if we remember that we can just make small changes to make a big difference, right? And we stay hydrated, and it's not just a slogan. It's not just a thought like, oh, I didn't have enough water today. And we think, oh, not only should I have some water, but we should put some things in our water. We should maybe think about alkaline water. We're going to make big, big differences.
All right. Thank you for that recap. I know
Yeah.
we covered a lot. Okay, well, before we get to Q&A, how can people contact you in the future if they have questions regarding nutrition or if they want to get in touch with you regarding chiropractic medicine? Dr. Aklilu is in Northern Virginia. How can they do that? How can they get in touch with you?
So contact us. The best way to contact me or my team at Kalai Chiropractic and Wellness Boutique right? Website, www.kalai.org. It's a new website. We just transitioned our name from Dream to Kalai. Super proud of it. My brother Kirwa Lakilu actually made the website, so plug to him, right? Yeah, it's really well done. So on there, you'll find our number. The best way to email us is contact us at kalai.org. And you can also reach us on social media platforms at Kalai_dream, Kalai_ChiroWell. You see, that's how new it is. Within this past week, we made that change. But Kalai is it's a great place to really see health just come to life, between the chiropractic and working with nutrition and working with essentially the functional health, right? Because what nutrition is functional health. It's making sure that we're moving, making sure that we're eating, making sure that we're staying alive. But that is the best way to contact us. I look forward to questions and calls. If anyone has any questions at all, go ahead and email us or check out the website.
Thank you for being so available to us, Dr. Aklilu.
Thank you, Ida. This was awesome.
My pleasure. And we do have questions rolling in through the chat, but before we get started, I want to remind people that you can type the questions into the chat. If you like, we will start unmuting or giving you the ability to unmute your mic if you want to ask your question by your voice directly to Dr. Aklilu. I know we've been speaking mostly in English, but both Dr. Aklilu and I speak Amariña fluent. Well, we understand Amariña fluently, so we'll do our best to translate and answer for you. And we do have team members on the Habesha Health organization that speak Tigrinya as well, if people want to ask in the language that they feel comfortable in. Okay.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I realized that not everyone spells Kalai the same. So let me spell out the website for anyone that's interested. It's www.kalai.org. And the email is kalai at, sorry, I did it wrong. Contact us. So contact, CONTACT at Kalai, KELAYI.org.
All right, thank you. And your website, I think somebody actually dropped it in the site as well. If you want to go ahead and click that. Do you offer virtual nutrition services was one of the questions.
Actually, all of my nutrition services are online.
Okay.
So within the chiropractic work that I do, we talk supplementation, we talk about nutrition because there's time for that. And health is holistic. Mm-hmm. However, for anyone who's looking for strictly nutrition and functional medicine, functional health related things, it's all online and you just schedule online right through the website.
Okay. Okay. Easy enough. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with the questions that were posed on the chat. The first one is from, and forgive me if I say the name wrong, Woob A. The question is, can you talk about relationship between food and mood and mental energy?
Yes. I'm not an expert in this, right? Mm-hmm. However, there's a lot that I can say. So when we talk about food, remember, if we talk, let's focus in on something like autism, right? One of the first things that I would do with an autistic child is work on their diet. Work on taking out some of the things that they're probably craving, some of the salts and the sugars, right? A lot of the times it's the sugars, right? A lot of the way that we eat too is is very much connected to our immune system, but our immune system, right? This question takes it to another step, right? Our immune system is also connected to our nervous system. And that's my wheelhouse, right? As a chiropractor. So you take food and now you take nervous system. How do the two connect? On one aspect, you can think about food having emotional triggers, right? There are things I'll eat because I'm sad. There are things that I'll eat because I'm happy. There's very much a relationship that we create or sustain because it's going to feed parts of our brain, right? Based on how we're feeling. So our emotional health, and you as a social worker, as a therapist, you know the connection too, right? And so maybe you can speak on that. There's very much a connection between how we eat, how we feel, and what we're thinking. In chiropractic, I always talk to everyone about the 3 T's. What are the things that affect your nervous system? Your nervous system is affected by trauma. Most of the time, we're talking physical trauma. Your nervous system is affected by thoughts, right? So if you constantly have good thoughts, or you constantly have certain bad thoughts that are coming, and you're not able to adapt, right? You don't know how to process that feeling. That's going to impact your nervous system. And then toxins, right? Toxins like preservatives and such that we put into our bodies. But to just make sure I'm answering the question, your mental energy goes from, and your cognitive ability and your mood and your emotions are all coming from your brain, right? So when we're eating, what we're doing, if we think about, now it gets really wide, right? The gut brain axis. What you eat gets transferred to your brain. Everything is going, and you're literally, there's an axis that's called literally the gut brain axis. Food, brain, connected. Okay.
Like a highway.
It's a highway. It would be a whole separate, webinar just on this, but very, very much connected. So when we have a kid, like for a child that may be autistic, we take certain things out of the diet. When we have autoimmune conditions, we take certain things out of the diet, right? And we find that it creates less inflammation, it creates less stress and toxic energy in the body. And so that's going to help us feel better. It's going to help us think better so we don't have as much mental fog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all the time we see cases, if we think about things like dementia, right? Very much related to how we've been eating. And so this is a good point too, because a lot of where nutrition is so valuable and so important, and not just nutrition, but neurology, brain development, is within the first 7 years of life.
Mm.
Okay. So within the first 7 years of life, you have a chance to make a huge difference. What you're feeding your children within the first 7 years can impact them and be what they passed along to their children or their children's children. And that's within the first 7 years. Right?
Generational. Mm-hmm.
It's very much generational. So it does impact your brain. It impacts your cognitive abilities. It impacts, we can go into a whole discussion about ADHD. I mean, all sorts of things are impacted because your neurology is impacted. So yes, there's a connection between the two, and it's very deep. So we should always be thinking about that.
Okay, thank you. And our next question, actually, you mentioned something about autoimmune disease when you answered the first question. This question is from Jonas Tesfaye. He asked, do people with an illness like an autoimmune disease have to do something different regarding nutrition?
Yes. Yes. This one's a great question. It's a great question. What an autoimmune disease is your body, your immune system has said, I'm fighting against you, right? I've recognized and I'm fighting against you when it really shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times the natural things in our bodies, like our immune system, that is made to fight for us, if we have a problem with it fighting against us, it creates a whole slew of problems.
Right.
So oftentimes someone who has an autoimmune disorder wants to take inflammatory things, needs to take, has to take inflammatory things out of their diet. Most of the time that is gluten. In the US right now, we have a really big problem with gluten and gluten sensitivity, right?
Mm.
And dairy, right? Lots of
Oh.
dairy. I know. But these things are the first to go
Mhm.
when we
Mm.
have autoimmune disorders, right?
Mhm.
Because we're
Okay.
trying to help the immune system work rather than, than, than kind of have to just accept the fact that it's just going to be working harder and harder and harder. Makes sense? So there's lots of ways that nutrition can help someone that has an autoimmune disorder. And once again, going to a provider and making sure that you're specifically talking about this, right? I have a lot of clients who go to a GI specialist, gastrointestinal specialist, right? And that is one step. That's certainly one step where they can do testing and they can help determine what that autoimmune disorder may be, maybe
Mhm.
celiac, maybe IBS, maybe, lots of different things.
Yeah.
But they're not the best trained at what you should do to prevent or to support or to help. So make sure if you have these conditions, you're saying, okay, I am now going to also ask for this next referral. You may need to advocate for yourself to say, hey, I know that what I eat is impacted by this condition. I can get help. I can make a difference. What things
Mhm.
am I sensitive to that I can take out of my system,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Does that answer the question for him?
I think so. And what I keep hearing from you, Dr. Akilu, is it's really important to advocate for yourself, to communicate what's going on with your doctors, and demand those referrals.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Including,
even if they don't bring them up.
even if they don't bring them up, and including, from the first question, it's really good to know that there is a connection between how your brain feels and the food that you're eating,
Mhm.
right? Just knowing that that is connected can help people make a difference and a change.
Yeah.
Lots of people in our community suffer from mental health disorders, right? And it's important that we're making sure that people who have these conditions or need help in this department are asking for the same referrals, right? Yes, you may not think that this is a gut related issue, but if we can help the gut, we can help the brain.
Absolutely. I hear you loud and clear. Referrals to nutritionists, referrals to mental health specialists, all of those things.
Mhm.
Um, the next question is a little more specific. It's asking, what is the difference between saturated and unsaturated fats? I think we talked a little bit earlier about we need to avoid extra fat, but you also mentioned that there's some good fats we can eat, like the avocado. So,
Right.
mhm.
So saturated fats are going to be solids in room temperature. So that's the big one right there, right? And a lot of saturated fats make our bodies work extra hard. So you'll have good fats like olive oil and coconut oil, you know, flaxseed oil, all of these different fats are not bad for you. We need fats, we need good fats. So we don't want to cook things and make more saturated fats, right? We don't want to, butter is a saturated fat. What we're finding in milk products, saturated fat. So those are really the big key differences. So you want to make sure that you are using good fats, but um, looking at how many, looking at the labels and looking at the difference between unsaturated and saturated, and knowing, hey, I need more unsaturated fats. The big difference is a chemical difference, right, between the two. That's how your body recognizes the difference. But if we look at, hey, this is solid room temperature, I can use less of it, that's a nice way to go to.
Gotcha. Okay. And looking at the nutrition labels.
Absolutely.
All right. We have a question here about, do you take clients all over the country?
I do. So because nutrition is online, I can see anyone that's anywhere. And a lot of our supplements that we use are drop shipped to your home, right? So that's great because one of the things that I love to do is if there's ever anything that's outside of my wheelhouse, like I said today, I refer. I find places that we could definitely make sure that you're being well connected to because health is holistic. There are many different components and it's all connected, like the brain, like the gut, like the immune system, all of it, our emotions, everything is connected, right? So yes, absolutely can see anyone around the country,
Okay.
and it's all online. So nutrition is fun to do, and we talk just like this.
Um, there's a lot of information out there from YouTube, from Dr. Oz, from, the World Wide Web, what we're reading. And it's hard to know, your family members telling you stuff, sharing on the Viber, on the WhatsApp, and it's hard to know what's what. And what would be your recommendation as far as like fact checking something or knowing what's for you and what's not?
So a lot of the problem with the the one size fits all internet, right, is most of the time when we find a shirt on at the store, we don't want the one size fits all, right? We want the, well, I'm a small or I'm a medium or I'm a large, right? You want the size that fits you. And the best way to do that is to find, to kind of drown out some of the information that you're getting. Some of the information, it can become really overwhelming.
Exactly.
So find people who do this for a living, right? Find someone who knows exactly what they're doing, and then who then knows you, who knows what conditions you come with, where where your mental space may be, what you're ready for, what you're not ready for, someone who's specifically able to work with you, right? And it may take some time to find that, but we can't get frustrated at advocating for ourselves and advocating for our health, right? Again, number one disease process that's hurting and killing people, communities, especially communities of color, right, is food related. We typically, most of us, don't have someone that's specifically talking to us about food, what we are eating and what we're not. Oftentimes when we're getting diagnoses like hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, all of that, it's eat healthy, exercise. In order to really know how much exercise you should be doing, how much water you should be drinking, what's going on with you, it really has to be specific. And it really has to come outside of this one size fits all. Let me look at a bunch of YouTube videos and, Google a lot of different things. I heard this was good. I heard this was good. Let me guess about my health. I want people to stop guessing about their health. And I want people to be very conscious and say, this is where I'm going to spend my time and my energy and my money, because this is where if my immune system, if my health, if my gut is doing well, I am doing well, right? This is where we're talking real disease prevention. This is really getting into public health, right? So find a provider. I'll say it over and over and over, right?
Yeah, I hear you. You've been driving home that message. And actually what you're saying is very empowering, that we can make a big difference in our health. We don't have to be victims, and we can make these simple choices of changing how we eat, changing how we cook, what we choose to put on our bodies, advocating for our health with our providers, asking to talk to the right people. We have these tools, and we can make a difference.
Right. Something, for example, like coffee. We drink a lot of coffee in our communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look and you Google, you'll find lots of research for these are all the benefits of coffee. These are the reasons why you shouldn't have coffee. You know, it goes back and forth and it leaves people confused. You know, there's one study that I read, if drinking coffee is going to help with your insulin and it's going to help with your sugar. On the other, it's coffee for a diabetic isn't the best idea because we're causing more stress and more insulin, you know? So it comes back down to that. You know, how do you know that what you're doing for you is the best? For a lot of us, there's a lot of people who are trying their best to make conscious decisions so that their bodies are understanding and processing what they're eating and what they're drinking, but they're not necessarily getting, you know, the feedback or the support that they could be getting if they had a provider that was specific to this.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And just even knowing that your primary care doctor, this is not their bread and butter. This is not their wheelhouse. This is not what they're an expert in. You have to ask for that. You have to seek that out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Yes, I know that is a topic that you and I constantly talk about, the state of our healthcare system. And I'm sure that's a whole nother webinar.
well, I was at least happy to share with everyone that injera is a good probiotic.
I know, Dave.
Dave injera, let me get that correct. Dave
Right.
is really,
okay.
Again, you know, when we're making the injera, we want to make sure that we know the ingredients that's in the injera. We want to make sure that we're not overcooking our foods, that we're being conscious about what we're eating, the times that we're eating, right? And this can be different for lots of people because people have different goals. One person may have a goal for, hey, I want to put this autoimmune disorder at bay, or I want to lower my blood sugar. Another person may be, I want to gain weight, I want to gain muscle, I want to have strength, you know. For someone who's osteoporotic, for example, an osteoporotic woman, you know, the recommendation is to have, I believe it's 50 grams of prunes in a day, right? Is that necessarily correct for every osteoporotic woman? Right? What if you have osteoporosis and you have other comorbidities, you have other conditions?
Right.
So remembering that we are all individuals. And as a community, we should continue to share our tips and our advice and try this and do this and this worked for me. We should definitely continue to do that, right?
Okay.
The village and the network is how everything works.
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot forget that we are individuals.
Mm.
What works for me, Ida, may not work for you.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to remember that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Klilu. Sadly, we are coming to the end of our time today. You have shared so much with us that's been useful, and I hope all our community members that came today are going to leave today feeling like they learned something, feeling like they can advocate more for themselves, and hopefully can also share some information they learned with other people. That's how the village, the community network grows that you mentioned, Dr. Aklilu.